Hello, my name is Lindsay. Thank you for joining today's Family Office Network's webinar series featuring Soligenix. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Dr. Christopher Shaber, Chairman, President, and CEO. Dr. Shaber has spent his 30-year career in the pharmaceutical and biotechnology industry dedicated to the development of new drug therapies to treat rare diseases in areas of unmet medical needs. During this time, he has been instrumental in bringing several very novel life-saving therapies to market to help patients. And as you will hear today, it appears he is close to doing it again. At the end of today's presentation, we will have time for Q&A. We encourage your questions, so please use your questions chat option on your screen to send those over so we can answer them accordingly. And with that said, Dr. Shaber, I'm going to let you take it from here.
Thank you for the kind introduction, Lindsay. I know what everybody's probably thinking right now. This guy looks too young to have worked for over 30 years. All joking aside, though, thank you for taking time to listen to the Soligenix story. I believe you'll find it to be an exciting one. So, for those of you not familiar, Soligenix is a publicly traded company. Our symbol is SNGX. I need to show, I'm legally obligated to show the forward-looking statements. This says everything I'm about to tell you today is our best estimates, but does have the potential to change in the future. So who is Soligenix? Soligenix is a late-stage biopharmaceutical company focused on developing and commercializing products to treat rare diseases where there's currently an unmet medical need. We have two unique areas of focus here. We have a specialized biotherapeutics business segment focused on oncology and inflammation, and a separate public health solutions business segment funded entirely by the government that focuses on vaccines and therapeutics for military and civilian applications. Most notably, we had an early COVID-19 vaccine that we're very excited about, which I'll review with you a little bit later in the presentation. Investment highlights. As you'll see on the pipeline slide that follows this one, we have multiple products with orphan and/or fast-track designation, each of which holds the potential for significant commercial returns. We have 3 phase 3 clinical assets. The first, cutaneous T-cell lymphoma with SGX-301, is a topical synthetic hypericin, has already achieved statistical significance in its phase 3 pivotal study. This study is now complete, and we look to file a new drug application in the first half of next year with the U.S. Food and Drug Administration. The second is oral mucositis and head and neck cancer. This is with SGX-902, a novel innate defense regulator technology we call Dusquitine. And this pivotal study is completed enrollment now, following positive interim analysis, and we expect the final top-line results for this study before the end of this year, next month. And the third is pediatric Crohn's disease with SGX-203, an oral beclomethasone dipropionate. And this pivotal study has been cleared through the FDA, but we have not yet initiated this. We're waiting for additional funding, mainly partnerships. So our focus are those 2 phase 3 programs in cutaneous T-cell lymphoma and oral mucositis. We have a robust pipeline that allows for a steady stream of material milestones and catalysts to build value. We also have strong collaboration with biotech, academia, and government agencies, and hopefully additional followers. We're very active on evaluating strategic alternatives, including partnerships. So you would imagine when you have a phase 3 programs, there's quite a bit of interest. So we're in a number of confidential discussions. We're also very active in our pursuit of non-dilutive government funding to advance our technology and also help us manage our operating expenses. Since I've been with the company, we've brought in over $80 million of non-dilutive government funding and are currently operating under an NIH contract award of approximately $21.2 million, focused on our heat-stable ricin toxin vaccine, Rivax, which I'll also review with you a little bit. And a strong management team and board moving the company forward to success. Here's that rare disease pipeline that I spoke of. The top half, specialized biotherapeutics, the bottom half, public health solutions. And as I noted, all our programs are orphan and or fast track designated. What jumps out of here are these green highlighted arrows. These are programs funded in part or entirely by the government. The nice thing about this funding is it not only allows you to build out a very robust pipeline, especially for a company our size, but allows for multiple shots on goal to mitigate risk, a lot like a financial portfolio. Here are those multiple potential value drivers. The green boxes are those we've achieved. The blue boxes are clinical and/or preclinical data reads. The orange are regulatory milestones or value drivers. So as you see, quite a bit of activity over the next 2 years. I'll focus above the dotted line with our 2 phase 3 studies, SGX-301 and cutaneous T-cell lymphoma. We have now announced all the data in the phase 3 pivotal study, all positive. We will look to begin our filing of a new drug application in the first half of next year. And if all goes according to plan, have approval of that application in mid-2022. With SGX-942, this is for oral mucositis. The final top-line results for that pivotal study will be this quarter, next month. And if all goes according to plan, we are filing an application with the health authorities as soon as the first half of 2022, after we accumulate some long-term follow-up data, also very important. Here's the global market potential. I won't go into great detail here. The assumptions are to the right. I would just say we remain very opportunistic on the business development front across a number of different areas. But I also will make note that a number of these indications are tailor-made for a small company like Soligenix to commercialize. Obviously, in the public health solutions, specifically a ricin toxin vaccine, where you have one customer being the U.S. government, commercialization is pretty straightforward there. But even in an area like cutaneous T-cell lymphoma with SGX-301, a highly specialized area, you have roughly about 35 centers in the United States that diagnose or treat 80% of the CT cell in this country. So a very focused disease in which you don't require a large commercial unit to really move this forward effectively. So we keep this as an option for ourselves as we look to build shareholder value in the future. I'll now review those phase 3 programs with you under our Specialized BioTherapeutics. You've seen this before. That's the top half of that rare disease pipeline. Just to remind you, our commercial targets are unmet medical needs in oncology and inflammation. The first is cutaneous T-cell lymphoma, or CTCL. This is a rare class of non-Hodgkin lymphoma, which malignant T-cells migrate to the skin surface to form patches, lesions, or tumors. CTCL affects over 40,000 non-Hodgkin lymphoma patients worldwide, and there's currently no cure. And that's important to remember because our therapy isn't a cure. You treat the lesions, they go away, they come back again. They come back in the same locations, different locations. So what you do is try to manage it in early stage disease, which is that upper right-hand diagram, before it progresses to late stage disease, which is that disturbing middle picture. And as you would imagine, your prognosis for survival is not good there. So as you would imagine, for a chronic cancer where there is no cure, managing it is very important in the early stages, but also the safety of your therapy is just as important as the efficacy, because if you can keep it early stage, then patients can live for quite some time with this disease. There's currently no approved first-line therapy for treating early stage CTCL, that upper right-hand diagram, that makes up the about 90% of this patient population, the vast majority, and that's where we're focused. So we have the potential to be that first approved frontline therapy. Because of this, FDA not only gave us orphan drug, but fast track designation because of the unmet medical need that exists here. We look to treat with SGX-301, our topical synthetic hypericin, which is a first-in-class drug that's applied to the CTCL lesions on the skin, followed by activation with safe, visible fluorescent light to kill the malignant T cells. As I noted, there's currently no approved frontline therapy for this disease, and the therapy is currently being used either for later stage or second-line treatment of this disease, or used off-label, not approved in this disease, all carry some very detrimental, significant side effects, including melanoma. So you have the potential to be treating one chronic cancer to develop a more lethal cancer with extended treatment. So not an ideal, obviously not an ideal approach there. In addition to that FDA orphan and fast track I spoke of, we also have UK Ministry of Health Promising Innovative Medicine designation and European orphan drug designation. Our phase 3 study enrolled 169 subjects. Our primary endpoint was statistically significant. And then what we had demonstrated in our study with extended treatment is those response rates continued to increase, and the significance became that much greater. Our drug is also effective in patches and plaques, and that's an important thing to note, and I'll touch upon it a little bit later. And no systemic absorption with our drug, enhanced safety. So what you have is a rapid onset of action with significant potency, with equal efficacy against both patches and plaques, which has been demonstrated in this study. And this is a good visual, this slide here, because it's such a direct response. And as I noted, the treatment is safe and well tolerated. Minimal reported adverse events where other CTCL treatments are characterized by acute and chronic side effects, including with other photodynamic therapies that use UVA light, the equivalent of sunlight, that potential for cancer forming with extended use. And our onset, as I said, is rapid treatment response. Our data demonstrated a statistical significant response after only about 6 weeks of treatment, and that response rate improved to close to 50% by 18 weeks of treatment, where most CTCL treatments require at least 12 months to observe a statistically significant response. And as I noted, our therapy is effective against both patches and deep plaque lesions, where other CTCL treatments are known to be useful at patches, but lacking efficacy against plaques. And the main reason for that, you can see in the diagram to the lower right. With our therapy, not only our SGX-301, but using visible light, the penetration of that light into the skin is much deeper because we operate in what's known as the yellow or red light range. So as you can see, it would make sense to have a potential impact on those deeper plaques. Here's our phase 3 trial design, again, which was successful, but it was a highly powered, double-blind, placebo-controlled randomized study, randomized 2-to-1, 2 drug, 1 placebo, as you see in cycle 1 here. And the way we designed this is we treated 3 predefined index lesions on the skin. We treated twice a week for about 6 weeks. Then we allowed 2 weeks for redness to clear, and we measured our primary endpoint for the study at 8 weeks. And that endpoint was the percent of patients achieving a greater than or equal to 50% cumulative reduction as assessed by the Composite Assessment of Index Lesion Severity, or CAL scoring system, a well-known scoring system in the dermatologic setting. We then, after that treatment and the primary endpoint, which was achieved, as I noted, there was a crossover to cycle 2, where patients could all the patients in the study could then get their 3 index lesions treated with SGX-301 for another 6 weeks, for a total of 12 weeks of treatment. And that's where that response rate increased to 40% at that point. And that's where we started to see that differentiation and that importance of treating both patches and plaques. And then in cycle 3, which was a compassionate use optional cycle, patients could then get all their lesions treated if they remained in cycles 1 and 2. And fortunately for us, the large majority remained in the study, which obviously shows that both the patients and the clinicians believe the drug was working, which it was. And then we have 6-month follow-up. So this study is now complete. As I noted, we are moving towards a NDA filing in the first half of next year to begin that process. The next phase 3 program is oral mucositis in head and neck cancer. Oral mucositis is a multifactorial disease linked to a dysregulation of the innate immune system. Oral mucositis affects over 180,000 head and neck cancer patients worldwide, and it is a significant market opportunity. Well, obviously much larger than CTCL is, 500 million plus worldwide market opportunity. And what this is, it's a debilitating side effect of cancer chemotherapy and or radiotherapy that triggers this exaggerated inflammation, this inflammatory cascade, as you see in the diagram to the upper right, that results in overt ulcerations of the mouth, tongue, and GI tract, just extremely, extremely painful. Those that have had a canker sore and oral pancreatitis, times that by 1,000 here. Many of these patients, before they get their radiation chemo, will have surgery and get part of their jaw removed for their head and neck cancer, and will be on high-dose opioids before they begin the radiation chemo. And the pain that develops from the oral mucositis is so severe that even the opioids don't work anymore. It's breakthrough pain. And it becomes so severe, as I know, they can no longer eat and or drink. And as you would imagine, where you can't eat, you become malnourished. If you can't drink, you become dehydrated. You require hospitalization. And many of these patients will have to take long treatment breaks with their radiation and chemo, or believe it or not, they forego that treatment and say, I've had enough, let the cancer take me. I can't endure this pain. So significant debilitating pain and a significant expense associated with these patients when they develop the severe oral mucositis, above and beyond the cancer. There's currently no approved drug for oral mucositis in head and neck cancer. Again, an area of unmet medical need. And here the FDA has also granted us fast track designation. We looked at treat with SGX 942 or duscotide. This is our new chemical entity. It's a first-in-class drug that's given via injection called an innate defense regulator that modulates the body's own innate immune system to reduce inflammation. It not only reduces the inflammation, though, it clears infection and promotes tissue healing. Two other very important components of treating oral mucositis. Because as you imagine, when you have open ulcers in the mouth and the throat, you don't want to rinse your mouth, you don't want to brush your teeth, and secondary infection sets in and normally occurs in these patients. As I know, there's no approved drug for oral mucositis in head and neck. It's an area of unmet medical need, and we currently have an exclusive commercial collaboration in the greater China market with Cyclone Pharmaceuticals, and as I noted, in a number of discussions here with companies waiting for these top-line results that will come next month. In addition to that fast track, we have UK Ministry of Health Promising Innovative Medicine designation. We're building off a wealth of data here, a number of preclinical models across both infection and mucositis and wound healing, but also a very robust clinical study. We did a phase 1 study in 84 healthy volunteers that demonstrated safety and tolerability, and then a phase 2 double-blind placebo-controlled multi-centered study in 111 head and neck cancer patients that demonstrated a significant response. In the overall population, we reduced the duration of severe oral mucositis. Again, severe, you can no longer eat and drink by half, 50%. And in those patients, at the highest risk of developing the disease, those receiving radiation and high-dose chemo every third week, an even more robust 67% reduction in that duration of severe oral mucositis. And again, the more aggressive chemo and radiation is associated with the best outcomes in patients. So that's important to note. The pivotal study here has enrolled 268 subjects. That enrollment is complete following a positive interim analysis. And I'll briefly note that because that's an important feature here. With all of our phase 3 studies, like we're doing with the oral mucositis, like we did with the CTCL, about halfway through our study, we have an independent data monitoring committee made up of a statistician, clinical experts in the field, look at the actual phase 3 data, unblinded. The company, everyone involved with execution of study remains blind. Looks at the unblinded data, can give us guidance on the health of the study. If they saw nothing, they would tell us to stop for futility. There's no reason to continue. You won't be able to achieve your outcome that you were looking to achieve. If they do see a promising drug effect, they can tell you to continue to enroll towards your end. They can, towards your total number of patients, they can increase your number of patients slightly to maintain your statistical power. So in our study, the data monitoring committee did see a promising drug effect as they saw in CTCL, asked us to continue to enroll, to increase our sample size a bit, which we did to enroll those 268 subjects. So a very important item here in which you can actually have a read on your study by that data monitoring committee looking at that data and giving you a feel for the health of the study so that you're working on, for lack of a better word, more real-time data, patient. And as I noted, we expect the top-line final results for this pivotal study next month. So here's the phase 2 data. I won't go into any great detail. I'll focus on the graphs. As I noted, in those patients that got radiation and the every third week chemo, the high-dose chemo, aggressive chemo we call it, we reduced that duration of severe oral mucositis from 1 month in the placebo group to only 10 days in the drug group. Very profound. That was at 67% reduction. But most importantly, or just as important, every key secondary efficacy and safety measure moved in the same direction of the drug. Whether it was infection rate, the incidence of oral mucositis, whether it was the duration of ulcerative oral mucositis, as you see in that middle graph there, where we were showing a statistical trend, as well as both acutely in the study and long-term, we had more complete responders, complete resolution of tumor clearance. Acutely, and then when we track these patients one year out for safety, as we show on the bottom right-hand graph, that trend continued to show itself, and importantly, we started to develop a statistical trend in survival. So that's very important because obviously if you can get all your radiation chemo, your outcomes are better, and our data shows that. It's also the potential that our duscotide, the SGX 942, may have a role in treating oncology in the oncology setting, but all of those factors contribute to what we believe is some very profound outcomes 12 months out. Here's that phase 3 trial design. Again, another highly powered, multinational, double-blind, placebo-controlled study, which we enrolled one patient, one-to-one, placebo to drug in the study across approximately 50 US and European study centers, looking at radiation. Our inclusion criteria was radiation, that more aggressive high-dose chemo is where we focused, where our response was the strongest. And here are how we treat. It's twice a week, a short 4-minute IV infusion twice a week while you're getting your radiation and chemo, which is usually about 7 to 9 weeks, as we did in the phase 2 study. And that's an important thing. You always want to build off your phase 2 or prior studies and not change variables. And we make it a point not to change variables. And if we do adjust variables, it's those variables that have the potential to put the study more in favor of the drug signal that we're seeing. But as I noted, we've completed enrollment here following that positive interim analysis, and we'll be looking for that primary endpoint, which, as was in the phase 2, is looking for that decrease in the duration of severe oral mucositis, and that will be coming out next month. That important data, and then all the other secondary measures that I spoke of for the phase 2 study. We're looking again here, including 1 year out for safety, and we'll be collecting all that data and have some of that not only in 2020, but through 2021, when that long-term follow-up is completed. So that's our 2 phase 3 programs under the Specialized BioTherapeutics. I'll now transition briefly to the public health solutions and review a couple of programs with you here. Again, you've seen this slide. This is the bottom half of that rare disease pipeline. Just remind you, funded entirely by the government, focused on medical countermeasures for civilian and military use. And our focus here is to find molecules and look at indications where we can protect the country, protect the world. One area in which we're doing that is with a heat-stable ricin toxin vaccine, in which we demonstrated in non-human primate aerosol challenge models that we can show 100% protection in protecting these non-human primates against ricin toxin exposure. Can't get better than 100%. We also showed safety of the vaccine itself in healthy volunteers in multiple phase 1 studies. And those of you not familiar with the biodefense type of area, obviously you can't expose humans to a ricin toxin and show that your vaccine protects. So the FDA allows you to do your studies, your pivotal studies, the equivalent of phase 3 clinical studies in animals, and so is the FDA animal world, typically non-human primates. So that's how we'll be moving forward to approval with this particular molecule. But ricin toxin vaccines have rising interest in the U.S. government due to recent terrorist threats and ease of castor bean procurement, as ricin is a byproduct of the castor bean. We also have the potential to be the first approved ricin toxin vaccines. We're a world leader in development. And as you may think, with regard to any type of biodefense application, your customer is the government. So the end game is, ultimately procurement or stockpile of that particular vaccine by the government. So that is what we're looking for in what we'll call commercialization here. But most importantly, and just as important, is that in the biodefense sector, molecules that are able to get through the FDA and get approval also qualify for what's known as a priority review voucher. These vouchers, if you're successful in getting your drug approved by the FDA, you receive this voucher, they are transferable. You can sell them. The last voucher sold for approximately $100 million. So it's a nice added feature of the biodefense sector. Again, if you're fortunate to get it across the finish line with the FDA. We do have FDA orphan drug and fast track designation here as well, and European orphan drug designation. And as I noted, we're following the animal law and operating under approximately $21.2 million NIH contract. The last program that we're very excited about is our heat-stable COVID-19 vaccine. We demonstrated already proof of concept with an S1 spike protein and a very novel co-vaccine adjuvant, which we demonstrated balanced antibody response, including Th1, which is very important in treating COVID, strong neutralizing antibody response, cell-mediated immunity, and the potential, at least in our mouse models, of a single dose of our vaccine may be feasible. I don't need to tell anyone the importance of a COVID-19 vaccine here. we're all aware of the pandemic that we're living through. But I will bring up that many of the vaccines that are on the forefront right now that you've heard from Pfizer and Moderna are live virus vaccines, or known as mRNA vaccines, which, believe it or not, those types of vaccines have never been approved by the FDA. This will be the first time. So there is an unknown with regard to safety that ultimately, hopefully, the data supports. But another concern of the live virus vaccines, or potential concern, is the fact that they require freezing to store and distribute, which is very difficult from a cold chain distribution standpoint. So having a heat stabilized room temperature vaccine that can be shipped not only within the US but worldwide, very important. We believe that we have that technology, and our technology is a subunit type of vaccine. And those not familiar with subunit, all the current vaccines out there for pediatrics, for the shingles vaccine, are all subunit vaccines. So the safety of these types of subunit vaccines are a little bit better understood than the live virus vaccines. So we are collaborating here at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. As I noted, in addition to that positive early data, we'll have some more coming out in both the near term and then going into 2021. And we believe that we are positioned nicely for additional government funding here too. At least some small portions funding, not like some of the Operation Warp Speed funding, but funding from government bodies like the NIH to continue to progress this vaccine, and hopefully it picks up a little bit of momentum for us. But we're very excited with the early data thus far. Here's our management team and board of directors. To the left, our management team, all spent our careers in big pharma, small companies, building and growing biotech companies, especially in the rare disease setting, supplemented by a strong board of directors on the right with deep experience in business, finance, and drug development. Most notably on our board, Dr. Jerry Zeldis, who for many years was the chief medical officer of Celgene Corporation, a very well-known biotech company in life science industry. And now he's retired, and he's on our board and working with some other companies as well. And we recently added to our board Miss Diane Parks, who comes with a wealth of commercialization experience in the rare disease setting, formerly with Kite Pharmaceuticals and Genentech, again, some very well-known companies in the life science industry. So I know I reviewed a lot with you, I went through a lot of detail, but hopefully in this short period of time, I was able to give you a feel that we have multiple products with orphan and or fast track designated with significant commercial returns, 3 phase 3 clinical assets, one that's already positive and has been dramatically de-risked, another in a very large market, the uromyositis, which we'll have those top-line results next month, so a very near-term catalyst that has potential to be transformational for Soligenix. And then the pediatric Crohn's disease, which is a later program, but obviously a late-stage program. Steady stream of milestones and catalysts to build value, as I showed in that one diagram, and the value drivers, key data reads throughout 2021, 2022, including key regulatory filings with the health authorities, collaboration with biotech, academia, and government agencies, and again, hopefully additional callers. We're very active on that front, looking at a number of strategic alternatives for the company. And we think that there's the potential for some return there. Also, we're very active in pursuit of non-dilutive government funding and believe there's more funding in our future to bring non-dilutive capital into the company, and a strong management board moving the company forward to success. So with that, I will thank you for your time. I'll just briefly say that if you want to learn more about Soligenix, please visit our website. We have a lot of good information on that website that can provide additional information. And please feel free to reach out to me, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that I can answer for you. So thank you again.
Dr. Shaver, thank you so very much. Again, to all of our attendees, we would love to take a few minutes now for Q&A. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and send them over via the chat questions option on your screen. Dr. Shaver, just jumping right into the questions, and hopefully I pronounced this correctly. First question, can SNGX-301 or a form of it be used to treat neurofibromatosis?
We've never looked at it there, so I would say I really don't know. To be fair, I'm a data-driven person, so I focus on the data. I will say that in addition to cutaneous T-cell lymphoma, we have shown some early phase 2 data in psoriasis, which is obviously a much larger market than CTCL. So we believe there's a lot of value here, especially with the recent data where we showed an impact on deeper plaque lesions. That's very important because with psoriasis, a lot of it is characterized by deeper plaque lesions. So I think there's the potential in this setting to really move this to a significant area that's a significant problem in, worldwide in the psoriasis indication.
Perfect, thank you. Moving on, next question. What is your current cash position and burn rate?
Good question. The nice thing is when you have that non-dilutive government funding, it really helps you manage your burn. Currently, we have over $11 million in cash as of our last quarterly filing, which we just put out last week, a press release on that. And we have burned historically roughly a quarter, about 1.5 to 1.7 million. So that's a quarter. So that's with 2 phase 3 studies going on. So as you can imagine, that non-dilutive funding really helps you manage your burn and extend your cash runway. So we're sitting in a very nice cash position to get to some additional milestones, namely those oral mucositis phase 3 results that are coming before the end of this year.
Great, and kind of adding on to that, do you expect any additional non-dilutive government funding?
We do. I'm always careful because I don't usually talk about it until I have the award letter in hand, but we do expect some additional funding coming through, namely in the COVID-19 vaccine space, which is starting to really move as we generate more data. I think that's going to be a very compelling program in light of what we're experiencing today, and I think that has the potential to receive funding to continue to allow us to develop that and do our work for a heat-stable COVID-19 vaccine.
Fantastic, thank you. Next question, can you restate the market potential for the oral mucositis indication?
For the oral mucositis indication, sure. So oral mucositis is a large potential market. As I said, it's 500 million plus. And the reason why we say that is because our focus in our study was head and neck cancer. And we looked at head and neck cancer because the incidence of developing oral mucositis, especially severe oral mucositis, is very high, as much as 80%. So in doing a clinical study, you didn't require thousands and thousands of patients to really see a potential drug effect. But it's important to note that across all cancers, you see oral mucositis on average about 40%. So there is an extension in life cycle management there that can go well beyond head and neck cancer, but it is a significant market that can really move even beyond the $500 million range at the end of the day. So it's, again, very large, and we're getting quite a bit of interest in that program. I think there's a number of folks that are on the doorstep now waiting for the top line results in this study next month because, again, the final results are so close.
Perfect, thank you. That does seem to be all the questions that I've pulled through so far, but again, to our attendees, if there's anything else that you would like to ask, please go ahead and send those over. In the meantime, Dr. Shaver, is there anything else that you would like to add before we kind of wrap up for the day?
No, I think we covered everything. Lindsay, thank you again for scheduling this and putting this together, and I'd like to thank everyone for attending. And again, if there are any questions, you want to learn more about Soligenix, please look at the website. We have a lot of good information on there, and you can definitely reach out to our IR group with any questions, or to me specifically, and be more than happy to answer any questions you may have. But again, thank you for your time today, and stay tuned. Next month is an important month for us as we begin to build momentum into 2021.
Thank you so much. And yes, I will be following up with everyone individually. And on behalf of Family Office Networks, thank you so very much for joining us. We hope you have a great day.